Dude, the perks of having a studio in your own home. My neighbours are doing the lawns. Can't even hear it. Can't even hear it. It's so good.
Hey, my name's Stan. Welcome to the Drum Cave and welcome to this week's episode of Chats With. Nice, bro. This week I'm speaking with an amazing drummer out of Melbourne, Australia, and a guy that I've known for some time now, Mr. Dan Presland. So Dan is a phenomenal drummer, quite known in the speed metal genre, playing for artists like Ne Obliviscaris, and Vipassi. And aside from just catching up, what I want to talk to Dan specifically about today is the type of maintenance required for his level of drumming and the genre that he plays in specifically. So being tour ready, when you're not touring, how do you keep your speed up, the amount of reps that it took to get him there in the first place. And I also want to talk to him about how he made newspaper headlines when he left his train driving job to become a full-time musician, and then going on to become a producer and setting up his own studio. So Dan has done a ton of studio work, he's toured the world, and he's actually just getting ready to jump back on the tour with Ne Obliviscaris. So I think there's going to be a great conversation here. Let's get into it. Man, that beard is getting pretty epic.
Dude, it is, isn't it? It's been growing. Yeah.
Where are you, bro?
I'm at home in the studio.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Can we get a little look at the kit?
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Oh, nice. You're actually behind it. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wicked. Bro, I got to say, that video that you sent through, man, just the aesthetics alone, before you even listen and you're just looking, and forget the multicam as well. Let's just say, like, if you just focus on one camera, the aesthetics of your kit is just so pleasing.
It does look cool. Like, it's kind of symmetrical and stuff, so...
Yeah, and I know that, and we'll probably get into this, but I know that given your type of playing, it's all in the details of placement.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Yeah, I've been into some of your older videos, and you've actually changed it a little bit in recent years and stuff. Even ergonomically, I can tell that you've sort of moved things around.
Yeah, it slowly evolves, always.
Cool, man. Well, hey, before we kick off, just want to say thanks for your time today too, bro. Like, you and I haven't spoken like in person for quite a while, but we've definitely sort of shared the odd DM here and there. So I just appreciate your time, man. The reason that I wanted to talk to you specifically is because I think that you've got quite an interesting story. I don't want it to be like that cliche, tell me about your childhood and, and all that sort of shit. I want it to be like, there's actually specific things about your story that I quite like. And with everyone that I've had the pleasure of speaking to so far and even going forward, there's always a reason,
Gotcha.
Yeah. So with you specifically.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Oh, bro, all good, man. So for you specifically, the things that I wanted to kind of dig into today, first and foremost, is, I mean, your genre is not my genre, so I think that's an interesting chat within itself. And
yeah, definitely, always is.
Yeah. And I had a great chat with Chris Turner a little while ago, and even within your guys' similarities, there's so much difference as well.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of Chris?
Yeah, dude, he's unbelievable.
He's ridiculous, eh?
It's just comical.
It actually is comical, eh? That's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about as well, like how you interpret someone like Chris and the way that he plays and the physicality and stuff. I mean, shit, we're kind of just diving straight in, but because to get to your level within your genre, and I know because I've spoken to many guys that are in that the speed metal genre, or where it comes down to the muscles and really understanding how the body works and repetition-based stuff and relaxing at the right times and things like that, it only happens with an infinite amount of reps.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's a long grind, yeah.
Massive grind. So much more psychologically than what it is in someone in my genre.
Yeah. Yeah, it's much different because I still to this day do 10-minute double bass drills. I've been doing them for 10 years. Whereas, just to keep up with, how I want my, note spacing to sound. But, a lot of guys would typically have, maybe 3, 4, 5, or whatever months diving into a certain concept.
Yes.
Whereas this concept of like double bass and stuff it's been a constant the whole time. So
And hands as well, right?
yeah, hands too. Yeah, so it's a big psychological game.
Definitely, yeah. And I think because the thing that I find interesting about guys like yourself and Chris Turner and anyone that's in that world, the pre-tour setup, I would say even the physical and psychological aspect of maintaining a 90-minute set in your genre while you're touring and night after night and looking
Mm.
after yourself, I find that stuff fascinating as well. And even things like consistency and like the question of triggers and not, and in the studio, do you want to like grid everything? And I find, which to be honest, man, like I don't think that there's any right answer with that. It's really just specific to its context, right?
Yeah, for
But
sure.
I'm always fascinated by the individual's take on it. And I mean, one thing that I found interesting with talking with Chris is that his wave files, like his accuracy and dynamics, is out of control.
Yeah, yeah, it looks like that too.
Yeah, like he actually had to go online. This is Chris Turner we're talking about, by the way, the amazing UK drummer. He had to go online and do some live where he proved that his WAV files, like he doesn't edit and all this. I mean, he didn't have to do that, but he gets a
Yeah.
lot of criticism for, well, people look to try and pick holes in
Oh,
someone
they
that.
do. They do. I've had
Do you,
guys say that all my kick notes are on MIDI like live. I don't actually play them. They're like MIDI. So it's like, to me,
that's
it's like,
hilarious.
at first you'd get insulted, but I'm like, hang on, that's actually a pretty wild compliment.
That's a massive
Because I know
compliment.
they're not on tracks. So
What's funny with your style, with you specifically, though, is that if you just put your name in YouTube, so many videos of you come up of you showing what you can do, like on a
right.
pad, on a kit with just phone audio, at a gig with full mix. Like it's not like you have to. It's just you don't have to look that far to see that you can do what you can do.
Yeah, it's crazy what the internet does. I used to get upset at some of that stuff years ago.
So did I,
Um,
bro.
but yeah, but you just learn like, I actually do not care.
Nah, and I kind of think it's part of the course.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's kick into this properly. I don't want to do the whole, like tell me your life story thing, but I do want to know specifically in your case, the when you started drumming and how come you fell into your genre? Was it just an immediate thing, or was it a progression? Because I do feel that world is so different to a lot of other genres. So what was your initial pull into it? So early influences and music and things like that.
Yeah, I think I got drawn to what I do just because I felt like there truly was no limit or no ceiling or anything like that. It was just like you can do whatever you want, and it's probably
Mm.
how I fell into Ne Obliviscaris because that band really has no boundaries. So
So when did you join them?
I first joined in 2005.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. So is
yeah.
that
So
5 albums or no, 4 albums, right?
4 albums.
Yeah. Yeah. Far
Yep.
out. So, okay. So, uh, how old were you when you started playing?
I got a kit for my 18th birthday.
What? You were 18?
Yep.
Really? That's quite late, man.
Yeah, it's pretty late. Yeah, it was. Yeah, but
Wow. So, did you play anything else prior?
no, no, I didn't.
True. And so, what was the trigger for you? Did you fall in love with the music and then you found that you wanted to pursue it?
Yeah, I just had a lot of friends who were musical, and I just loved it and wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, just picked the drums and just ran with it.
So, you're 18 years old. And then what music are you listening to at the time?
Metallica, Pantera, the
Right.
classics.
Yeah.
But my background, like I grew up on Zeppelin and Sabbath, all the classic stuff.
Yeah.
So it just gradually, escalated into more extreme. And I feel like my musical taste has gone like this as I'm aging. It's like gets extreme, and now I'm sort of like off and everywhere, and just whatever just tickles my brain. I'm interested in.
Yeah, that's another part that I want to dig into you as well, which I think is going to be a running theme with you specifically is that you get quite fixated in a positive way on what you're doing. I mean, what you do on the kit is a result of that. And I mean, taking on the studio, and I know you're a very fastidious person. I don't know you that well, bro, but I do know that you are quite OCD and very fastidious,
Mm.
and you like to dot your I's and cross your T's. And so, with that in mind, then, like before you started playing the drums at 18, were you doing anything sport related or anything that kind of you had an outlet for that sort of hyper focus?
Yeah, I was heavily into sports. Played indoor cricket for Victoria when I was a kid and stuff like that. But I had a
Okay.
bike accident. I actually broke my neck, so it cut all my sports.
Did you?
Broke it in two places, and it just killed all my sports stuff, and killed all my confidence. And then I was 16, 17.
Wow.
So
A
recovered.
broken neck.
Yeah, recovered and just put all my focus into music.
Has that injury has it sort of shown itself in recent times for any reason or
No, it's been fine. It's been
okay,
fine. No issues. Yeah.
that's good. So you put the bike down and then you found the drums. And once you found it as an outlet, how did you sort of dial into the genre? Like, how did you sort of find yourself working on this genre, and who were your influences early in that specific? Like, I mean, I call you like, I don't even know how to frame it. I know it's metal, I know it's speed metal, but is there another genre for your style of music?
I would say the style that I'm probably most known for would be prog metal.
Yeah, yeah, okay, prog. But I would even add to that though, because you have more than just prog metal going on.
Extreme prog metal, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose extreme might be the speed element.
I've played in death metal bands and that when I was younger, and but I think I'm probably most known for the prog metal stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're very, very compositional, which is what I like about your playing. That within your genre, I mean, you sent me that 10-minute video, man, and I don't even know how you remember, like, because every single note is intentional.
Yeah, yeah,
You're not just ripping it out at like 2:30 the whole time or anything like that. You're very considered in what you're hitting when you're hitting it. It is, yeah, you're right. It's progressive metal, definitely.
yeah. I feel that way. But I got into it with bands like, I'm not sure if you're aware of Emperor. They were probably the first like old school black metal band, but they sort of transitioned with this symphonic element to it, and it
Right.
really captured my imagination. And I think
Hmm.
Neo takes a lot of pull from that band. So the guys that did it for me were Lombardo, Lars. I still think Lars is a goat to this day.
Yeah.
Vinny,
Bro, how good is Vinny,
Danny
man?
Carey, dude, just the dudes who just have m- emphasis behind every stroke. Anyone who plays like that is I'm a fan of. Doesn't matter
And
what.
style, eh? Like the names that you just rambled off, then they've all got so much character to their playing. Like you look at Vinny and Danny, I mean, they're just such massive components of the overall sound.
Huge. You could play the isolated drum stems from any of those guys, and I could tell you within 3 seconds who it is.
100%, especially Pantera. I mean, I went through a Pantera thing again semi recently when I was going for my runs. I just went through every album.
Yep,
Terry Date produced the first four, and I'm a massive fan of his drum sound
massive.
and his production style or producing style. But man, like Vinny's groove on top of everything. The thing that blows me, it's his pocket that sort of blows me away with like that heavy groove metal.
Yep,
And I just feel grateful that I got onto his style early because we are a product of our influences, and with
absolutely.
guys like that, it's just a pleasure to listen to.
Yeah, well, Terry Date said when he first heard Pantera, he said it was like trying to capture electricity inside a bottle, and I thought that's so accurate. That's just the most accurate way of describing it.
And man, album after album, really, really consistent. Like Revolution is my name. That song's on like the fourth album, I think, and I'm like, it has some of the coolest parts in it when he breaks to the
Yep.
cowbell.
Yeah.
Like
It's
out
so
of
sick.
nowhere for like 4 bars, he just plays this cowbell groove, and then Dimebag's doing that squeal riff over top. Like it's kind of almost new metal or something. It's so cool.
It's the best. I love Pantera. I was actually very lucky to work their show in Adelaide earlier this year, their arena show.
Oh, really? What were you doing?
I was just working for King Parrot, which is
Oh,
an awesome
yep.
place
Okay.
supporting them.
Yep.
So that was super cool just to see behind the scenes how wild their show is.
Did you meet Charlie?
Yeah, yep.
What's he like?
Catering. He was cool. I've toured with his wife years ago. She used to play in the Butcher Babies.
Ah, true.
So we had a bit of a yarn, and yeah, he was cool.
Yeah. And did you watch them play?
Oh yeah, every second. It's one of my favorite bands. So
It's such a weird concept, eh? Like going back on the road without the two key components, I'd say, in a lot of ways. Obviously, Phil is definitely a key component too, because his vocal style is so it's so much part of
yep.
the band as well. But to do it without Dimebag and Vinny, it's a big call, eh?
Oh, massive. I mean, Charlie actually did an amazing job. He studied big time.
Yeah, you'd have to, bro. Because
He dug
people
in.
will put you through the ringer, you know.
Yeah, he seriously studied. So I was very impressed with Charlie, and I know every single note off every Pantera record, and I enjoyed it. So it was good.
Answer me this then, and this can be on the record or off the record. How was his? Because I've got my thoughts on this, but how was his version of Becoming?
I don't think he was quite playing the right notes, but that was the only thing in the whole set I could pick.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I've picked a hole in as well, and I've gone through what I've found online with a fine tooth comb, you know.
Yep, yep. But
But
everything
that's
else was really well done.
yeah, yeah, cool. And do you know what, man? That's kind of cool as well because Becoming is a monster of a track with one of the most incredible double kick patterns. You know, leading from the left foot.
Yeah, I
It's
saw your
like
video the other day where you broke it down. That was
it's
cool.
iconic, man. And like, how bizarre is it that he? Because like the way that Vinny described that is he was like, yeah, well, it's you pulse your left foot on the hi hat, just bring it over to the double pedal, and
Yep,
just chuck in what did he say? Just chuck in triplets and singles on the right foot. That's the way that he viewed it in its simplicity.
it's so sick.
It is so
It's
sick,
so
eh?
sick. I love
And
it.
when you switch your brain into thinking like you're not really doing left foot lead, you're just kind of pulsing the hats on the left side now, but
Yep,
on the slave pedal,
yep.
and it kind of reinterpreting it that way actually helped. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So you joined Neo back in 2005. That's a long haul, bro. Like we're coming up to
Yeah,
2025 pretty
yeah. What
soon.
I
So
did leave for a few years. I just joined, like this year.
yeah, yeah. So I want to talk to you about that as well. But before we get into that, so when you joined that band, had they had a drummer previously?
They did, but it wasn't like a serious sort of band.
Okay.
So they'd rehearse and do. They had a few songs going and stuff, but they weren't like a touring band or anything like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, they did have a previous drummer, and I did have to learn a few of his tracks. But I mean, I'd only been playing drums for like 2 years when I joined. I couldn't play for shit.
And were you already playing the style? Like, were you already investigating speed
I
and all
was
of that
trying to.
yourself?
So I went. I knew the old bass player, and I went and had a jam with him. And I just said, look, I love drums. I want to be like this guy and this guy, and I love this and I love that. And they believed in me and gave me a bit of patience to grow within the band because I was by far the most inexperienced guy.
That's funny.
By far, yeah, dude, I sucked so bad.
Man, they've kind of watched this beautiful evolution of your playing over the years.
Yeah, well, that band's really shaped me as an artist.
Mm. Yeah, not many people can say they've played with the one band for 20 years, eh? I know you did have that break, but still, like, it's that's a pretty amazing run. So, were you guys once you joined the band and things started to get a little bit busier? Did you get into touring straight away, or was it just sort of lock yourself away and write a bunch of material?
I don't think we went overseas till 2011.
Okay, so before the first album, so how are you getting your guys' sort of name out there then for an
Just
international tour?
online. Like back in the day, it was forums, internet forums.
Yep. And were you already popping off on the forums? Were people sort of taking notice?
A little bit, yeah. It was sort of a bit of buzz, and it just slowly grew. Released the first album, there was some buzz. Then we went straight back in and did a second one. The second one is what sort of took off a bit.
That's 2014, eh? The second album.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
So we're actually doing a 10-year anniversary tour for that. Starts next week. So
So that's okay. So you'll be playing the whole album, sort of thing.
yeah, we're actually playing two albums. It's a 2 hour and 5 minute set.
What the hell, man?
It's it's crazy. Like on my watch, I burn like 1,300 calories.
Oh
It's
man.
it's wild, dude. It's wild.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many questions I have for you because, like, when I found all your videos on Drum Academy, and something that I find interesting about your style. We'll just get into that. Is that because the biggest difference between you and Chris Turner, for example, even though you guys hit similar tempos and stuff, is that he's full leg and that you're not full leg. You're more ankle when it's needed, but you've still got a lot of power. And I know, do you use the Danmar beaters? Is that right?
I used to, but I'm on the Polish Chachi Copito beaters now.
And are
They're
they real
about
heavy?
5 grams heavier. They're pretty similar.
Oh, okay. Yep, yep, yep. Yeah, because I mean, you seem to. I remember you talking about how you focus more on the beater than the head of the drum, or like the
Yep,
power that you're putting in. You focus, so you're really playing off that weight of the beater. Is that
yep,
right?
yep, for sure.
And so when it comes to your grind sessions, how do you sort of? I suppose I know that you can do your long periods of like double kick work, you can sustain it for ages, man. Like I've seen videos, and I've also seen people talk about you. Like people really hold you in high regard in this scene, man, which I'm sure you're aware of as well. Your ability to sustain, I mean, shit, a 2 hour set, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, it
How do
is.
you kind of go into it knowing that your pedals are set up properly, and like what are your things that you're looking for specifically to make sure that everything's dialed in for you to be able to sustain these long periods of power and tempo?
Yeah, so my thing for that has always been I work harder at home than what I do on the road.
Right.
So to give you an example, to prep for this tour, I'll play through the set in the morning or lunchtime. So it's about 2.5 hours, including warm up.
Whoa.
Let my body cool down, do what I need to do during the day, and then I'll try and get an hour, sometimes 90 minutes of drills at night. And my second session's never as good as the first. So
Ah,
it's kind of
okay.
a mental thing too. So I go to bed thinking got to be better tomorrow. Wake
Right.
up, play through the set, played a bit better than what I did the day before. It's just a repeating cycle. But I'm averaging about 3.5 hours a day. So sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 3.
Shit, man. And are you
That's
warming
behind the
into
kit.
those? Oh, it's behind the kit, not on a
That's behind
pad.
the kit. Yeah,
That makes sense. I mean, like you say, you want to work harder at home than what you're going to need to on the road, right?
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah. I always say that to my students. I always say that, like, I mean, in your safe environment, you need to push yourself in here, because once you're out on stage and the drum riser's shaking and there's lights and smoke and all the
yeah,
things that come with environmental change, you
yes,
can't prepare for that. So you've got to just double the load in here at the very least.
yeah. And I'll change out different sorts of bass drums I use, and um,
Oh, so you actually work in rougher conditions or change things
I
up?
just try and change them up because like we're doing a South American run, and I don't know what I'm going to get, so I got to be ready. So
You do
um,
need to be ready.
yeah, and it's just the confidence thing, knowing you've done the work, that whatever's getting put in front of you, you're still going to put on a performance for people who've paid to come and see you.
Definitely. Are you flexible in that sense?
Yeah, I am these days. I know I was used to be, especially when I was first touring. You're like, oh, what's this? Like, I'm going to play on a fucking. I've played on a couch before. I've played with, because I use triggers. It doesn't matter. I've played
Yeah.
with a hole in the bass drum because the 12 support bands before me in Thailand just absolutely annihilated it.
Really?
We've got ripped a bit of leather off a couch, gaffer taped it across the bass drum, and ripped it. I used to get really upset, but now I'm like, I want to do these things. I want to tell my friends because they're going to think it's hilarious. It makes for a good story.
Oh man, I reckon that comes with age. Do you mind me asking how old you are? You'd be
But
same as me. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I'm 40, and when I was like mid-20s, man, I was that guy that would rock into a gig of 4 bands, and with my oh, this is a bit younger, sorry. I'd say more like 21, 22. I had like a 8-piece Pearl Masters, and I wouldn't let anyone use my drums, and I'd be a middle band in the set.
yeah, yeah,
So I would expect everyone to pack their shit down, set
yeah.
my shit up. No one could touch it. Don't even look at it.
What a
And then
punisher.
pack my, yeah, what a punisher. And now I couldn't care less, man. It's
And I don't.
hilarious. Like, man, give me a 5-piece, give me a 2-piece. Like, I mean, obviously that's very, it depends on the context as well. But within the bands that I play live with, I really don't care, man.
Yeah, yeah. The
Yeah.
first show we've got in Athens, the backlines not ideal for me, but I was like, we'll make it work. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. How long is this tour, bro?
It's 7 weeks in total.
Wow. Okay. All right. That's a massive undertaking,
Yeah.
especially at 39 years old, especially because you already left the band and now you're back in
Yep.
the band. So there's a
Yep.
bunch of questions here. Okay, I want to start here. So you've played with Neo for a bit, and then now were you a train driver?
Yes.
Yeah. So so there's two parts to this. My first introduction to you, and I don't know if you can verify this or not, is I bought a Sonor snare. Was it off you?
Yeah, I do. I do. I think it was on eBay, right?
Yeah, it was like a 12 by
Yes,
5 or
I do
something.
remember that. That was used on the first Neo album, actually. That snare.
Ah, true. Because you and I were both with Sonor back in the day,
Yes.
but
Yep.
before I even met you, I was like just trying to track down rad Sonor gear, and your blue bird's eye popped up
Yep.
with
Yep.
gold hardware.
Yeah.
And man, yeah, and I bought that snare, and it wasn't until down the track that I saw your full kit once you and I maybe connected or something that I was like, oh shit, I bought this guy's snare.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you came across similar problems to me with Sonar. It's just the support and
Yeah.
when you're touring and those sort of things, it's quite hard.
Yep.
And similar to you, I moved over to Pearl as well
Yep.
because I was touring a lot at the time and it just made sense. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But just a funny connection though, that I bought your snare off you well
Yeah,
before
dude.
we even met.
That would have been 14, 15 years ago.
Yeah, that would have been, I moved to Melbourne in 08, so I reckon it would have been within the first 12 months of being there.
Wow. Yeah, that's a bit of time.
I know it is. That was a beautiful kit, by the way. That was a
Yeah,
stunning kit.
that thing was insane.
Yeah, they all were though, eh? All the designer series, anything from that era.
I had a designer snare, which was. I wish I didn't sell it. I don't know why I did.
Yeah,
That thing ripped.
yeah. So I've only got one regret in my life, and it was I sold a Sonar snare that to a guy here in New Zealand before I moved to Australia. And he still owns it. He only lives a couple of hours away, and I run into him every now and then, and I'm like, "You still got that snare, man?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, man, it's never going anywhere." And I'm like, "If you ever sell it, you have to sell it back to me." It's just like it's a 14 by 6.5. It's a designer with the over the top hardware on it. You know, it's like, bro, and I just needed cash at the time. That was it.
Yeah,
it was one of those 18-year-old calls. You know.
Yeah, dude, money comes and goes. I wish I didn't sell anything.
Oh, bro, wouldn't that be sweet?
I've been saying that I've got a crazy collection, so
yeah, you do have a crazy collection. Yeah. Okay, so we met without really knowing through the Sonar sale, but yeah, so you were a train driver, and something that cracked me up about that is that when you left, when you quit your job, there was an article in the newspaper that was titled "Train Driver Quits Six-Figure Job to Become Full-Time Musician." It was like a headline in the fucking news, man.
Yeah, I do remember that. It just sort of took off for some reason, but
isn't that hilarious that would make news that you left your job to become a musician and the local newspaper thought it was worthy of writing an article about it?
Yeah,
because they couldn't believe it.
Yep. To me, it was a no-brainer. But
yeah, so like, how long did you drive trains for, man?
I've been in and out of that industry for 12, 13 years. So during COVID, when music dried up, I went back to it again.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Cool, that's handy.
Yeah, so, it's the sort of thing with the skills and competencies you get, you can sort of, it's not too hard to get a job.
No, if you're in though, but I know it's hard to get the job initially because my business partner back in Australia, his wife, she left podiatry to become a train driver, and she went through all the, the psychological things and like everything that came with it, and she became one. She's a train driver in Melbourne now.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. But that's how I know that it is quite an involved process, and you do need to be wired a certain way to deal with everything that comes with it, I suppose.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to get into, but once you're in, it's pretty stable if you need it. So it's always been my backup plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always been there if I need, if, for example, as soon as COVID hit, I went and got a job because I knew, this is going to probably stick around for a bit, and it did a bit more than I thought it would, but yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really handy. So when you decided to leave driving trains, what was the impetus? Were you touring heavily? Were you in a place where you were like, I actually can probably do this full-time muso thing now?
Yeah, it was a combination of things. One, my work would just like, you can't keep taking time off like this because we're touring heaps, and I was like, yep, fair enough.
Yeah. And how long were your tours around that time?
Anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks.
And you were touring like every year, right? Like you were always going out, man.
Yeah. Most years we do 100+ shows.
Far out, bro.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But, some years it might be 70 odd, but I'd dare set up around 100 most years.
And where's your biggest market out of Australia?
I want to say US, but I think Europe's perhaps now creeping up on it. Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Cool.
Yeah.
You guys have a massive Ne Obliviscaris in particular has a massive following. Like all of your tracks have had like multiple millions of listens, and the videos have had a really good good followership as well.
Yeah, the fan base I think because it's an emotive style of music, people are drawn to it in a different way, and it's like people get attached to it emotionally, and I think that makes it, yeah.
So when you say it has an emotive aspect to it, what do you think is the component that makes it emotive? I have my idea, but
probably mostly the violin.
Yeah, definitely. The strings, bro. I mean, how nice is it to hear strings?
Yeah, yeah.
So have you guys had that right from the start? Has your
Yep, yep,
violinist?
from the
Yeah.
start, yep. Tim's always been there, so that's been something that's been from pretty much day one.
Cool. What a rad component. Your
Yeah,
vocalist is really strong in that style as well. Like I'm not a massive metal guy. I just like certain metal.
yep.
And a lot of the time it's the vocals that will be the detractor for me.
I'm the same.
And yeah, bro, it's just like it's hit and miss a lot of the time, you know?
Big time.
But
Yep.
your vocalist is actually fucking great, man.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. I I don't know any of his lyrics, but he sounds cool.
Not an easy gig too, man.
Dude, I'm
Even just the maintenance of being a vocalist too. Like the older I get, the more I appreciate just how much more they have to deal with, especially
oh
touring,
yeah,
bro.
dude, it's yeah. I used to, uh, hate on him a bit for when we're touring, not loading out and all that sort of stuff. But now I'm like, nah, just don't do anything, don't talk, don't do merch, just go to the bus and get your
And
gas mask
maintain.
on. And, yeah,
Yeah, man. Like even just don't talk too much. Don't eat
yep,
like hours
yep,
and hours before the show. All those
yep,
things. Eh? It's
yeah,
pretty
and
interesting stuff that I just didn't appreciate when I was younger.
yep. Oh, for sure. Like I've played shows under the weather and
Yeah,
played fine. I think if a
yeah.
vocalist is under the weather, phew, it affects the whole body. The voice is a part of the whole body.
Yeah, so I play in this band back here called Black Comet, and the vocalist Lawton Corder, his name is. He's a amazing vocalist, and he's quite well known in New Zealand. And it's been a real pleasure playing with him because because I used to be a fan of him quite a lot when I was younger, in my
Oh, cool,
teens of the band that he was in. So it's kind of a full circle thing for me.
awesome.
But just getting to know him and really learn, he's done a lot of theatre work and stuff, and so getting to know a little bit more about the physicality of singing and whatnot. And he went to Paris recently and then came back, and within 4 days we had a show up north here in New Zealand, and his body just hadn't recovered properly. And we
Right,
released a single that day that we did the show, and when we got to that song in the set, the chorus is full voice, and then the verse is falsetto. So either
yeah, right,
way, it's
yeah,
like quite high register by choice. And he got into the verse in his falsetto, and it wasn't working. So then he started fishing around trying to find counter melodies that he could,
yep.
hit. And then he got to the chorus for his full voice, and it wasn't there either. And then just
Oh,
like watching him in real time just deal with it, and then finding melodies within his range that he could
yeah,
muster
right.
on the day
Crazy.
that we released the single. And just I was just sitting there just going, man, what a legend. Just
Yeah,
do, and then when he finished, he's like, oh, what can you do? The main thing you can do, the only thing you can do is not stop,
yeah, you got to perform.
you got to perform, bro. And so for you and I, that's easy enough. Like, I mean, I remember doing jazz gigs completely hungover, like with my foot up on the bass drum,
Yeah,
and like all sorts of shit.
yeah, yeah.
But you just, yeah, anyway, you just cannot do that as a vocalist. So,
No, definitely not. It's a death trap.
yeah. So, like, you've done a bunch of touring, and then you made the call to set up a studio, which I think is a real interesting part of your story, just because that I mean, as an idea alone is a massive undertaking, but then to the caliber and the level that you've done your studio in particular, and I'm sure that you probably didn't even expect that going into it and the sort of rabbit hole that you were going into. But can we just talk about sort of what led up to doing a studio yourself, where in the timeline that was? That I know that it was either pre-COVID or the start of COVID.
Just
It
at the
was
start of
pre-COVID,
COVID. Yeah.
just at the start. Oh yeah, because before COVID had happened, you'd already decided you were going to do the studio, right?
I'd sort no. Well, actually, what actually happened was my wife and I were going to open a restaurant.
Really?
Yeah. So I had a business plan. I had all sorts of stuff. The ball was rolling, and I don't know what stopped me from doing it, but I just put a halt on it for a few months. COVID
Yeah.
hit, and I'm like, my God, if I had have
Wow.
done that, I would be bankrupt.
Far
Like
out,
for
man.
real.
Who's
Yeah.
the chef? You or your wife?
Well, she is quite, a beast in the kitchen, so it
Yeah.
would be her, not me.
Yeah.
She came up with all the menu ideas, and it was going to be a Mexican themed restaurant,
Whereabouts were you going to do it?
just locally here in Melbourne.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Just
And
in your area?
yeah, in our area. Yep.
Where are you?
Melton.
Oh yeah, Melton. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Wow. So maybe it was like fortuitous. Maybe something was
Dude,
telling
so
you to
I
not pull the trigger.
just to this day still count my lucky stars because I would be bankrupt.
Oh, for sure, man. You'll know that during COVID or when I was in Australia, I was in the coffee industry, and I mean, I owned Rumble Coffee, so we
Yep.
roasted coffee for cafes and restaurants. And man, during COVID, we were considered a priority business, so we could stay open. But watching literally businesses die on a daily basis and go
Crazy.
under, it was so sad, man. Like I'd say over half of our customers had to close up shop
Damn.
to never open again as well.
Yep.
Some of them, like they were just like probably more to do with the way they were running their business as well. But it's just such a hard industry, even at the best of times, you
So
know.
it really is. That the amount of hours for what you get out of it is
Yeah,
it's
bro.
questionable.
Very questionable. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I'm not in hospitality anymore. um, so when you decided to not do the restaurant, had you had an idea of a studio at that point or not?
I sort of had a basic studio at home. It was just, a Focusrite 8 channel with, I think there was two of them linked together. I had 16 channels and, I could do basic stuff and it was cool.
Were you tracking for yourself or
Yes. Yeah.
and actually using the track? So you were
Yep.
recording yourself?
Yeah, I used
Okay.
to do a lot of session stuff on that stuff. Get
Yeah.
some okay results.
So what albums have you done on that more basic setup?
Oh, I just want to think of something notable. Probably the most notable thing would be a band called Irreversible Mechanism.
Okay.
Technical death metal band from Belarus, I think they are.
Great.
Wild record, absolutely wild. But that was cool. So I had an experience in Nashville as COVID was going down. Like I was in Nashville as it was all,
Oh,
announced and
really?
taking off. Yeah, tracking Neo's record, which was just after I went and visited you to get some ideas for that track that I sent you last night.
Oh, true. That's right. Yes, we had that session. Yep.
Yep. So I tracked that in Nashville. COVID was all getting announced, and like me and the engineer Mark were looking at our phones, like, dude, the Devin Townsend tour just got cancelled. This just got cancelled. Like, we're just like, what the fuck's going on? So I thought we were both in there doing the soundtrack of Doom. We were locked in this studio. The owners were like, the dude who owns it plays in Journey.
Oh, really?
Studio, dude, epic studio in Nashville. And he was like, no one's in, no one's out. It's just you guys. Don't have any visitors. It was all like, yep, no worries. So we were locked in doing this record. And I'm very, when I'm tracking, my phone's just like, I don't even have my phone near me. I don't want to see it. But at the end of the day, I'll pick it up and we're just reading through all the stuff. And I'm like, I couldn't believe what would happen in one day. Just everything
No
being
shit.
cancelled and stuff. Yeah, it was crazy.
And just as a deviation there, is that because you need to stay so in on what you're doing?
Yes, yeah, for sure. I don't want to get a
How
message or have that itch to scroll something or anything like that.
Yes, yeah, yeah. How much prep did you do leading up to that album? Just
Tons, heaps. Yeah,
like
I probably
months?
did. Yeah, I did 3 pre-productions.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was for the 6 weeks leading up. I was hitting between 4 and 5 hours a day behind the kit.
Holy shit.
Yeah, yeah, because the engineer was texting me. We are going through bass drum sound ideas, and he's like, "How loose can you play your bass drums?" And I'm like, "How loose do we need to go?" And he goes, "Just over finger tight." And I was like, all right, let's do it. Cool. So I rigged up my bass drums just at finger tight, and to be able to play, that stuff was quite a challenge. But because I have done the groundwork already, we made it work. It was cool.
That is a great bass drum sound. That's how Joey used to tune his kicks.
Yep.
So both finger tight on both heads. And I read
Yep.
that in a magazine on a Modern Drummer when I was like 17 and obsessed with Joey. And from then on, bro, I've always tuned my kicks like
I
that. So I've
love it now.
never. Oh, so
Love,
that's how you do it now?
love it. It sounds
Such a
awesome.
great sound, eh? I mean, that's
Dude.
how I recommend it, kind of in my tuning course as well. It's like
Yeah,
just
cool.
what's interesting about it is that I don't think drummers realize who maybe haven't had enough experience that because when you put a head on, because you can go so much tighter, you think that's what you should do.
Yep. All the
Because
rebound.
we're just grabbing the head literally at the
Yep.
point of contact,
Yep.
which would probably seem a little bit counterintuitive to how far you can take a head up on a
Yep.
kick drum. But man, just that slap and that punch in the
It's
body.
so good. Love it.
So did that change your did that actually change the way you tuned going forward?
Yeah, it did.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
because I monitor with kicks,
Oh, true.
with microphones and trigger because I just like the
Yeah.
sound of it.
Yes, it is a great sound.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you're tracking in Nashville, and then what did you do? Like, did you actually finish your tracking and then come back,
I
or?
did, yeah. I finished up a day early, got straight on a flight, went home. It was chaos, crazy. But got home, it was all good. But I had such an amazing experience at that studio. I just wanted to try and bring that experience, into my own house and build something. So I did, sort of, as it
Okay.
all took off.
So let's talk about that then. Like when you came up with the idea to do it, you obviously had the space at yours, so you already saw that you could pull it off in your house that you currently
Yep.
have.
Yeah, pretty much a double garage, and what was called a theatre room is my control room.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And because you hadn't done this before, what was the learning curve, man?
It's just it's just like you have no idea what you're in for.
I've only seen you talk about it a little bit over the years. And because I know the way that you approach your drumming, and like I use the word fastidious again, and that's a real compliment, man, because that word just means that you're meticulous, you know. I can only imagine how much of an awful undertaking it would have been because you are meticulous, because studios are just like, bro, I call this a studio.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a
Yep,
room with some drum heads on the wall
yep,
and
yep,
some microphones, you know.
yep.
What you've got is a proper studio that's EQ to the nines. You've got all the proper diffusion in there. And man, your drums sound phenomenal, and the room sound is really, really nice. Like I listened to some of your recordings with my headphones on, and I actually really like the way that you mix your drums in relation to the music, because the
Cool.
music always sounds quite central and close, I'd say, but you always add about another 3 or 4 meters of interpreted visual space.
Yep,
Does that
yep.
make sense? Like
Yeah,
I
for
can
sure.
hear the air from your drums specifically, and I think it
Yep.
really I don't know, it kind of helps me think a little bit more cinematically about things.
Cool. Yeah, that's a nice compliment, but it's
Or
definitely
would you say the same?
yeah. I aim for something like that.
Yeah.
That's what I sort of aim for. I just aim to give depth, color, and I want the listener to have something orchestral to listen to.
And your panning is stunning too. Like I can actually feel myself moving around the kit.
Yeah, and I always mix drummer's perspective.
Yes, I noticed that.
Yeah.
Which that's a decision, man. Like I like it's. Do you know when people when people mix drums from the drummer's perspective? That's when I notice,
Yep.
which is quite interesting because
Yeah.
all of a sudden I'm sitting in the cockpit.
Yeah.
Like when you went around the kit, I'm like, oh, cool. I'm sitting behind the kit. I
Yep.
don't think non drummers would notice it, but I think it's such an interesting way to do it.
Yep. I agree, and I love it.
Mm.
I don't mix any other way.
Yeah, cool. So let's talk about like building the studio, bro. Like going into it, what did you think that you were taking on as opposed to like it unfolding and realizing what you needed to take on?
Wow. I thought it would take me about 2 months.
Okay. And
So I
what'd you
thought,
base that
yeah,
on?
just I don't even know. I was like on YouTube every day, researching, talking to people, talking to friends who did something similar. And I was like, yeah, I'll get it done in, I've got nothing else to do, 2 months. And I think it took about 7.
Okay.
So, and mind you, I was in here between 6 and 12 hours a day, every single day, like hammer in hand, getting stuff done, in the roof. Just, yeah, it was
So
crazy.
did you build a box within a box? Like did you do the thing
Uh,
or
no, so what I've done is it's a double bricked double garage.
Mhm.
So I've then built the frame inside the brick, insulation, 16 mil fire check drywall, which is pretty thick, pretty dense. Then
Mhm.
all the green glue stuff, and then another 16 mil of drywall. So
Oh wow.
there's over a ton of plaster in this room, literally.
Did you know you were gonna need that much? Like how did you sort of figure that out?
Just from talking to people, they're like, to contain the sound, you just need mass.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, how much mass do I need to get? And I was like, I'll get the thickest plaster there is. And then they're like, nah, get 2 sheets of it and double it up, and then put this green glue in the middle, which is meant to absorb sound and dissipate it. And I don't know if it works or not, but none of my neighbors even know I'm in here. It's so cool.
Oh, so there is no bleed whatsoever.
Yeah, like, dude, I've been ripping sessions at midnight.
What about your wife? Can she hear it?
Not really. No, you can hear it in the house, but it sounds like there's a radio on in another room.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
So she can hear it, but she can sleep through it, so she doesn't
Yeah.
mind.
She's probably used to it. She signed up for it, eh?
Yeah, big time.
So like with your studio, did you actually intend on producing bands there, or were you kind of setting it up more as your space initially?
A bit of both. tinkered in recording other bands, just to get my chops up. I'm getting better. I don't want to say I'm good, but I'm getting better, like all the time, because I'm always trying to be hands on with everything that's happening here.
Mm.
Mostly to record my own stuff. So it's
To
just so
track for your bands and then create
yeah,
content and just work on things and
yeah, and it's such a nice feeling to be able to do, like the last record I did, the new Black Lava record. I think it took me like 6 days to do drums.
oh wow.
Like that's ages for me. Like I've done albums in one day.
Yeah.
40-minute albums, like technical
Yeah.
metal in one day. Like it's just nice to walk in and do one or two songs and go, that's it for today. We're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
On
was
your
like, yep, cool,
terms.
cool, yep. And it's just so nice. There's no stress. There's no clock. There's no. If my energy is good, my performance is good, we capture it. If it's not, we just wait.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
awesome.
It is a luxury, yeah, and it's probably more common now than it's ever been in terms of driving the ship yourself from a drumming perspective. I mean, obviously, I've got this set up. I track for people here. I've tracked for my bands here. I
Yep,
mean, at the end, it's like a really good room is amazing, but it starts with the player, right?
yep, for
And then
sure.
I would say probably the next thing that's the most important will probably be pre's, in my opinion. Pre's and then
Yeah,
mics, or mics and pre's, like switching between those two.
yeah. I'd probably go sound source before pre's.
Oh, would you
Personally.
go mic first?
Yeah, I'd go sound source first. So good tuning and good conviction behind your hitting.
Yeah, would you? I mean, if I put you on an average kit, you're still going to sound amazing because you know how to tune.
Yeah, and it's also the conviction behind the hitting too.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. The
Yeah,
person. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, so sound source. You mean the person?
yeah, pretty much the person.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
what
yeah.
I mean, shit drums can still sound good though.
Definitely.
Like I've used shit drums on some recordings, and if it just works, it works.
Yeah.
You can't put a
Yeah.
price or a myth or aura around a drum. Like I got a ton of bell brass here, and I use it heaps, but it doesn't get used all the time.
Sounds great too. I've watched you play with that. That's an original one too, eh?
Yeah, OG 80s one. It is an amazing drum.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fantastic. So, what would you
I
use if
use
you're not using that?
Dude, I've been using the John Tempesta 14x7 a lot.
Cool.
That thing rips.
What is it? Is it steel or
It's
brass?
brass.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I've got 80s pearl, you know, steel shells, which sound awesome. I put die-cast tubes on them, they rip.
Bro, I've got a steel shell at the moment. My main snare is a steel, and I'm loving it, man.
Yeah, dude, I think some of the best value for money snares are just steel snares with
I don't
die-cast
think
tubes.
they're too dissimilar to the bell bronze or brass. I actually think they've got a real similar thing going on.
Yep, I like them.
Yeah,
I
same
think they're
here.
the best value for money snares there are because they're
Definitely.
not that expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, so I use the John Tempesta. What else have I got over there? I think it's early 2000s Pearl Masters All Maple,
Oh yeah.
14 by 6.5. That thing rips. The Pearl reference brass is pretty cool,
Yep.
and yeah, I've got the Tama on at the moment actually. So
Do you have any sonar gear? Like, do you have any sonars left
yeah,
over?
I've got a couple of snares. I think it's an SQ1, and I've got I forget the model. It's a 14 by 5. It's just a birch snare, but it's pretty cool.
It's nice having a few snares, eh?
Yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool. Yeah,
Drummers are just nerds at the end of the day.
big time.
So I've gone through some of your videos, like into your studio Facebook page, and gone into your past and stuff. And it seems like the studio is getting a decent amount of work coming through it.
Yeah,
How's that process been? Like, obviously going through COVID, it would have been much harder. But coming out of COVID, and then, I mean, almost positioning yourself as a producer now, right?
yeah. I do enjoy producing. If the project can benefit from it. You sort of, because I have grown up in the one band, well, sort of one band. I've played in heaps of bands, but mostly evolved in this one band over 20 odd years. You don't really realize how much knowledge you gain over the years until you start working with other people.
Hmm.
And then you go, oh, hang on a minute, I actually know a whole bunch of things that could help elevate or throw them in a better direction. And
Mhm.
it's been kind of fun doing that because you don't actually realize when you grow and grow and grow, you just don't really realize the knowledge that you acquire over those years because
You take it for granted.
I think so, yeah. I think so. So it's been fun vocalizing some of the knowledge I have, which I haven't had to vocalize before, and I think it enhances some of the knowledge I have acquired over the years.
So did that happen because people asked you for your services in that sense, or did you find that you naturally, like, if someone wants to use the studio, the first time that you sort of assumed the producer role, was it like you solving problems for them because they needed to be solved, or you're there to actually do that because they've requested it?
I think it started happening. I'll just sit in the control room with a band, and they'll sort of be. You can see they'll maybe questioning what may or may not happen at a certain point, and I'd just say, "Well, why don't you try? Try this, try that,
Yeah,
try this,
yeah,
or get rid of that snare, throw this on, or whatever it is." And it just sort of evolved from that. So if bands sort of want some input, some straight up input, I'm happy to participate.
yeah. It's funny, like from the first time that you answered a question, that's a producer, bro.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's an extra. That's an addition to the invoice,
The
basically.
double invoice, yeah. That's right.
And so it has evolved over time. Basically, you are
Oh, for
actually,
sure.
yeah. And how's that process been? Do you enjoy it?
It's fun, yeah, I do enjoy it. I really enjoy I just enjoy the process of making music,
Yeah,
capturing sounds, and it's really amazing when you get special players. It's really fun, to really dig
yeah,
in,
cool.
and I like learning from people too.
Hmm.
It's really cool. So
Well,
it's
most good teachers stay students. I always say, like, to be a good teacher, you have to be a student first, no matter where you are in life.
yeah, for life. Yeah, for sure. I think the day
Mm.
you think you know it all is the day that you're probably you're not going, you're in the wrong direction.
Totally. I'd say, like, for me, teaching is a byproduct of the fact that I'm still a student. Like, it's just like because I've got such an inquisitive nature within the things that I'm interested in, the teaching is a byproduct of that, but it's still grounded in the fact that I'm hungry and
Yep,
I'm curious.
yep, yep,
Totally. So going forward now, you left your band, Neo. What led
yep.
to that, bro? And if you don't mind digging into it, because I'm super curious about leaving a band for a few years, them having another drummer, trying to move forward without you, which would have been a big loss for them because of everything physically and mentally that you knew about that, and then coming back into it and whatever you're willing to share on that part of the story.
Yeah, so I left during the COVID times, and everything was just chaos. Everything was chaos. I just with all the setbacks we were getting, we had some pretty awesome tours lined up. They were getting cancelled. It was frustrating. Um, and you just come to a point in your life. I think I needed a change. So I think looking back, I definitely needed a break. If COVID hadn't have happened and I kept doing what I was doing, I don't know what would have happened, but it probably wouldn't have been a good outcome. So I needed a break
Had you found it hard to manage the relationship, like whilst touring heavily and things like that? Has it ever been a hard thing for you to
with
sort of navigate?
individuals.
Oh, with your wife, with your now wife.
Ah, I see. Yeah, not. She's always been great. She's just like my biggest supporter,
Cool.
and so yeah, it's quite difficult. As you know, it's not something everyone could probably do.
Mm,
But I think the benefit was I was already touring heavily when we got together 7 8 years ago.
gotcha.
So she knew that was something that was a part of my life, and me being home certain times of the year, that's just how it was. So
Yeah.
she's been great, big supporter, and always supported the decisions I've made, including leaving and going back again. So that's
And
been great.
even, bro, setting up the studio,
Yeah,
like I
bank
mean,
account
you
just
need. Can we touch on that a little bit, bro? Like, I don't
yeah,
want
we
you to
can.
get into
Yep.
specifics, but can we just say that, like, in terms of percentages, you don't have to say numbers, but did you like did you stay on budget? Did you two times what you thought budget wise? Did you three times?
I
Just
think
as an idea.
I probably went 60,000 over what I thought it was going to be.
So would that be what, double, or would that be triple, or I don't even know what the starting point was for that.
Probably, probably double. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Just the rabbit
And
hole
once you
just kept.
started, you couldn't stop either.
Yeah, the rabbit hole just kept getting deeper and deeper, and
Was that hard, bro?
it was. Actually, I don't want to say it was hard because now it's done and I enjoy it.
For sure. But was it hard sort of reckoning with that at the time that it required so much more outlay?
Yeah, it was just frustrating because you have an idea of something, and I thought that's got to be pretty good, and then someone's like, "No, you can't do it like that. You've got to do it this way, and it costs 3 times the amount." You're like, "Okay, all right, cool. Swallow it, get it done properly." Because I'm like, if I'm going to do it, it's got to be done properly. So
Totally, bro. And that goes back to the way that you are as well. I couldn't imagine you doing it by halves if you're going to do it.
yeah,
The commitment that you sort of made to that process. And so would you say that, like, and I'm just sort of spitballing here, but like COVID happening, you building the studio, obviously it's doubling in the budget and all of that sort of thing. Tours are getting cancelled. Do you reckon that kind of plays into everything at the same time as well? Like you just going, fuck, it's all a bit too hard basket, you know?
it probably did. It was just madness at the time, and yeah, I definitely needed that 3 or 4 years off, regardless. So I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad that we could rekindle and come back and
It's amazing, bro. And so let's
yeah,
talk about that then. So you leave Neo and then they find this other drummer. Did you know the guy?
yep, yep,
Yep. And was he like up to the job? Not an
yeah, he
easy
did a great
job?
job, killed it.
Really?
Yeah, he killed it. Did a great job.
So you had to learn all your material.
Yeah, this and they were doing. I'm pretty sure they were doing like 80 something minute sets as well. That's a lot of
Man,
drums.
that's a lot of drums, bro.
It takes an absolute nutcase to want to take that on.
Yeah, massively. And so that was that when you set up Vipassi? Was that when you started
No, that
finding?
band's been around since about 2009, 10.
Oh, okay, righto. And so has it just sort of been like this other creative outlet? It's instrumental based. It is different in the style as well, but it obviously has some similarities.
Yeah, that's pretty much just a studio project.
Okay, bass player's insane, bro.
Oh, he's crazy.
Seriously, I've gone through a few of the tracks, and I'm like, holy shit, your drums sound fantastic. But the bass player, I'm like, man, this dude's a bit of a freak, eh?
He rips.
Who is he?
His name is Aaron McSporin from the UK.
Oh, okay,
So I did
right.
it. I did a tour with Neo through Europe in 2018. It was a headline run, and I can't remember. It was like a month before the tour was meant to start. The opening band was like, "Our drummer can't do the tour. Could Dan possibly do it?" And I was like get fucked. Like I'm not. Then I was like, you know what? This will be an epic challenge, so I'll do it.
I remember you posting about this. Yes.
Yeah. So I did. So I did the opening band 30-minute set. Then there was the middle band. Then the 90-minute headline show for 6 weeks.
So did that impact your 90-minute set?
Yes.
Massively?
I want to say 20, 15, 20%, depending. It varied, but the further the tour went, the more impact it had.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, 20%, that's a massive difference, man.
Yep, it is. Yep.
So would you find that it was in stamina and power? Or what was it sort of?
I would say mental, which then delved into the execution of what I was doing.
Oh, man, the psychological
Yeah,
aspect's fascinating,
'cause it
eh?
was it's two sound checks a day. Got to warm up twice, so it's a crazy amount of drums. But I am glad I did it because it just teaches you a lot about yourself
Yeah.
and all the rest of it. So it was a very good learning experience.
And it would have only added to your tool belt, your repertoire, your skill set,
Yeah,
mentally and physically. It's definitely, I'm sure it came with, like you say, its challenges, but that is a massive bridge to cross, bro.
yeah, it definitely was. But the point of this story was Aaron plays in that opening band.
Right.
We needed a bass player, and I was just like, this guy rips. Like, really love his style. He's such a cool guy, really friendly, easygoing. Just he's like one of us. You know, people you meet in music, you're down instantly. It's like
100%.
you don't need the years and years and years of development or anything. Some people are just,
It just works.
it just works, and it just worked. So I said, "Oh, dude, I've got this other band. We need a bass player. Would you be interested?" He's like, "Yeah, let's do it." I was like, "Wow, cool." That was easy. So
Like,
yeah, we brought an album out in January, and I think it's possibly the best work I've done. I think so. That was a sick album.
amazing, bro. That's a pretty big statement to make at this point in your career as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
He's very jazzy, right? Like that's what I noticed about him.
Yeah,
Is like,
he's a professor in the UK of music. his
There you
knowledge
go.
is pretty wild. Like he. So I would say for me, like I've played with a ton of super talented musos, artists. Some are very clinical, some are very emotive. Aaron is for me the best of both worlds, like a theory plus emotive like crossover.
A thinker and a feeler.
Yeah, it's crazy his knowledge, and it's crazy he's not like a clinical type player. He's very emotive,
Right.
and yeah, I really admire that about that his style.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you could hear it straight away. That's it. That's why I bring it up. I could feel it straight away.
Yeah, yeah, he's sick.
Yeah, awesome, man. So coming back into Neo, how did that come about? And was it a hard conversation for them? Like, so did it involve getting rid of the other drummer? Like, where? So how did it all come out in the wash? Because it's quite a big deal for you to come back in, and then now you're going back on tour again.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty wild. Just like the guys in that band are still, bet my best mates.
And they were during the break as well. Like, did that sort of?
Yeah, well, we obviously stopped talking a fair bit. Everyone did. I think the whole band, as a collective, just separated a little bit.
Mhm.
But we just, kept talking and, just rekindling and sharing good memories and stuff like that. And I came to a point where I wanted to perhaps do touring again. I'd filled in for some metalcore bands and did some stuff, and it was cool. And I was like, oh, I probably do want to do this again. I really miss it. So when I was talking to friends and my wife about, what I want to do or what should I do, or they're always like, well, why don't you go back in Neo sort of thing. Like, I was like, nah, I left it, want to move on to something else. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, maybe I will, maybe we'll see what happens. So we just talked, bro. Just took it easy, talked. Um, the Kevin that they had, who did a killer job, props to Kevin. He's already in another band, and his commitment going forward, I don't know the details of it all, but I don't know if he was able to commit to a lot of the tours that Neo wanted to do, perhaps.
Right.
So I wanted to do, full time touring again.
Yeah.
So I guess my commitment might have been a bit more available than Kevin's, considering he was in another project and all the rest of it. I'm not
Yep.
too sure, but yeah,
Makes
we
sense.
just
Yep.
kept talking, and yeah, just sort of happened. So
Cool. That's a great outcome, man. It's funny, like, because I've gone through the comments and Neo's stuff since he's been in the band, and he's obviously really respected from the fans. They
yep,
brought him in,
yep.
but you were definitely a missed presence in that band as well, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, as I touched on earlier, that band's very emotive, so people do get attached. I
Mm,
think I've played in and toured with a whole bunch of bands, but the fans, how they interact is much different in there. It's just different to anything else I've been a part of, and I think
that's cool.
because yeah, I think it's a bit like Tool. It's hard to compare to a band like Tool because they're like a
No, no, no. But you're talking about the relationship between the fans and the band. I can totally see that. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So it's got that sort of aspect to it, which is cool to see. It is really
mm,
cool. It's very very heartwarming. So
massively. And I mean, even for you, like having that grounding of your playing so firmly attached to that act is must feel quite good as well.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's very cool. It's been cool to develop my style and who I am as an artist. Essentially through the majority of one act. It's been cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So then, like now moving forward, there's a couple of things I want to touch on now. Is first and foremost within Neo and just where you're at personally as a player. What are your goals, man? Like what, like when you sit down and you're not working on a tour. Let's just kind of talk about a little bit of your maintenance stuff. Like you said earlier, you do 10 minutes when you're not touring, like 10-minute sessions, and then when you are touring, you do up to 3.5 hours a day and stuff. Like
Yep.
I know that you're within your style, you can't really take your foot off the pedal, really, ever. Is that
No.
fair to say?
Yeah, for sure. Um,
So what happens if you do take your foot off the pedal? Like if you took 2 months off not working on your double pedal drills, like how much are you going to lose, man?
well, it was interesting you asked that because when I was building my studio, I didn't really play much at all
Oh,
for
true.
probably 7 or 8 months. Yeah,
Wow.
and I think it took yeah. So I recorded an album probably 6 weeks or 8 weeks after I would say the studio was finished, and I had to do a massive amount of work to And even now, like where I'm at right now, and I've been working my ass off for months, I'm still not at the level of dexterity and match fitness as where I was in 2019. So I'm still,
So how do you deal with that, bro?
yeah. Well, I'm getting older too, So I just feel like I got to work harder, just knuckle down, and
Okay.
but I know how to work smarter as well. So when I say
Yeah.
work harder, it's not necessarily overdoing the drills, but it's like it's knowing exactly what to do.
Yeah,
If,
you're thinking about the details, eh? Because I noticed when you were talking in Drum Academy, you were talking about how you keep your right foot against the head because you know that that means that you can turn it straight back on when you're doing those flurries or those I
yep,
shouldn't say flurry because it's all placed so well. So you're talking about those details, efficiency and things like that.
yeah, and just being aware. I think, and recording yourself a lot, and just being able to target your weaknesses and being aware of that, self aware. I think is a pretty good skill to have. I think being able to recognize your weaknesses and coming up with a plan on your own to target that weakness.
And you've always been pretty good at that.
I think probably in the last 10 years I've gotten much better at it, but I wasn't very good at it. I think when I started because you just don't really have. It's like learning a language. You just don't
Mm.
have the repertoire to engage with the language. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Like I remember when Derek Roddy hit the scene.
Yep.
Like it was Serpent's Rise. Is that right?
Hate Eternal.
I hate Eternal, right?
Serpent's Ride's his solo act.
Oh, okay, yeah. So this is back when he was with Sonor too, so before his
Yep.
DW days.
Yep.
And I remember watching a video because I always found him really interesting because there's certain drummers that pop out in that genre for me that, they just play a certain way and you can't help but get drawn into it.
Yep.
And one thing that Derek said that always kind of blew me away when he first said it in this interview, he was like, he goes, "Yeah, I play from the elbow. And that means that I've probably got about 3 more years left of being able to do this." And it was like he was admitting defeat in the video of his style. And I
Crazy.
just found that. Did you know much about that, or that
I
are you familiar
don't
with that
know.
story?
Don't know, but Derek's actually a good mate of mine, so I do know.
Oh, true.
Yeah, yeah, do know a ton about Derek. Yeah,
Yeah, but I was just so kind of blown away at how almost how innocent he was talking about it. He was because he did play a very different way to a lot of the guys that I've seen in the
does.
speed. Yeah, like it is literally from he doesn't really flex the wrist, so he's pulling all that power and speed from what's essentially first, second, third gear,
Yep,
and then admitting in the article or the interview wherever I saw it that it had a shelf life.
yep.
But then he's still playing these days, though. So
He
maybe
still
has he
is.
adjusted his
He
style?
still is. He's slightly adjusted over the years from what I've seen. And I know one of Derek's philosophies when it comes to striking drums is like Bruce Lee's 1 inch punch. He gets a
Right.
ton of power, a ton of power, a crazy amount of power for a lot of people are obsessed with stick height.
Yeah.
That dude knows how to hit a drum. Like he's big on
I
muting.
remember the stick coming back though too. Like he would also
Oh, dude,
be still
sure.
coming back quite far.
But he's one of those drummers where like you watch him beside a stage and you're just feeling the energy, the power.
Mm,
It's just man, I'll get shivers on my spine just thinking
wicked.
about it, dude. It's so sick.
Yeah, so yeah, it's and I think Derek did a great thing for drumming, like bringing that genre into the modern drummer
He
world, I
did.
suppose. He
Yeah,
stood out
he did.
like dog's balls, and he had a really cool style about him as well. So I suppose the point of bringing him up was because you're in a similar genre. Do you ever feel like the physical demands of what you're doing? As you said you're getting older. It's 39. Like you're 39 now. Do you see barriers there? Because like when I was talking to Chris Turner, he's almost because he's only 30 and his style is so unique to him. I mean, he plays from the hip flexor the whole time, basically, which is fucked up. Sits really crazy high.
Yep.
And apparently, like, he just lays into it as well. Like, he doesn't really pull back. And people always go, "Oh, you're never going to last being able to do that." And he's like, "Well, I can, I do." He's almost got like that young, not arrogance, but that young energy about him that just
Yeah, yeah,
everything's
yeah,
fine. So
yeah,
you
yeah.
being 10 years on the track and the way that you play, do you psychologically and physically feel there's limitations, or do you sort of see it becoming a problem or whatever?
No, not at all. No, I haven't got any like niggling issues or anything like that. And my theory is if it's not hurting, it's okay. Like
Yes.
if you're practicing something and there's a pain, but just you've got to stop doing what that is. I
Yeah.
just don't have that. So touch wood, I can continue doing what I'm doing.
And so when you say that you haven't hit those 2019 sort of match fit that you were, what's the
Yep.
difference between now and then getting back to that level? Like in terms of time frame or even just what's required or
So when I say that, I mean the intimate note spacing
right.
that I'm sort of obsessed with, and that's why I'll probably never do doubles on my feet because it just does not. I haven't yet ever heard a doubles drummer have note spacing that I like. We're talking intimate, fine details here. I'm
No, but
not.
you can hear it, bro. I know what you mean.
Yeah, I'm not hating on any double strokes at all. It's just my fulfillment. But to get there, I think it's going to take a couple of tours. You know what it's like at the end of a tour. You feel like you can do anything. It's
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. So it'll take a couple of tours, but I'm trying to aim for the first show to be like epic. I want to be in a good form, and so I'm just trying to put the work in. So, but nothing's like match fitness though. It's just tour chops.
Tour
It's
chops,
like
yeah.
it's like when Pantera finished touring Cowboys for 2 years straight,
Mm.
non-stop, went straight into the studio, and look what happened.
It's the perfect thing. It's a perfect way to do it, man. We don't do that
Yeah.
these days. We tend to
No,
write and then tour.
yep. And we write on emails. No one's in the same room looking at each other. There's no communication. There's no. I think that's a big thing lacking in modern music is
100%.
energy. Like, yes, some amazing things can be done on emails, Guitar Pro, all the tools we have is amazing, but nothing will beat being in a room, looking someone in the eye. Like it's a language,
Nah,
it's
it's so
communication.
true, bro. Like some of the best work I've ever done, well, I'd say all the best work I've ever done was done in a room with the people. Like
Yep.
whether it was writing music,
Yep.
even forgetting recording, but just writing with people in the room, and then recording, obviously as well. Like everyone just sort of being present and really getting in that communal energy that comes with that. I would say that, and also just output has been severely. It's funny, like it's so easy to record these days. Yeah, I feel like their output is way less than what it used to be back in the day when it was so much harder to record.
Yeah. Yeah. I would probably
People
agree
are
with
like
that.
are afraid to take more risks and just put out more volume, you know.
Yeah. 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 I would agree with that. I think a lot of people are scared to, especially if a band has a taste of success, they don't want to deviate too far because you're scared that the success may not replicate or grow. I
Yeah.
think that happens a lot with modern bands.
Yes.
So that's something I've noticed. But I'm pushing and pushing for Neo to do the next album in a room, locked away. You know, like we did our first two, which are our most streamed albums, the
Yeah. So
most purchased.
writing it as well.
Yeah, 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 yeah. My ideal situation will be in the mountains. Locked away, no phones, no nothing, mushrooms, weed, whatever you need. Just get it done.
Yeah. Light a
Just
few candles, get in the zone.
yeah, whatever you need. Yep.
That's literally what we did for the first New Caledonia album. Like all those things that you just
Oh
mentioned, they were
wow,
all a
that's
part of it. And
yep.
bro, the lights off and the candles on, and
Hell
just
yeah.
going for takes, bro. What we did when we recorded that album, Lotus, was we retracted the four main members live and then just built on that. No
Yep.
click track as well, just because we attempted recording to a click initially and then we lost to the drum tracks, which is a whole nother story. And kind of saw that as a blessing in disguise and came back with this more like, actually, maybe we were being a little bit too clinical with that first approach. Let's
Yeah.
get everyone
Right.
in the room and go live again.
Interesting.
And it was by far the best thing that could have happened for the album.
How did you lose the tracks?
Bro, our bass player owned a studio here in New Zealand, and it was an active like studio that local acts would come and record in.
Okay.
And we tracked the drums. We hired a bunch of mics from all over the country. We put in our savings to get the mics, and
Yeah.
luckily the studio didn't cost us. And we tracked the drums quite clinically. Like we decided to punch in on every section because it was prog rock, and they were like
Yep.
8 to 10 minute songs. And so we decided, look, I'll just track to a click every section and then we'll just stop and then I'll cut into the next section, blah, blah, blah. We actually did the whole album this way initially.
Wow.
And then the bass player was transferring the files from one folder to another. And he transferred the files over and then deleted the first folder and then went to open the second folder. And because he was clearing space on his computer and realized that he didn't actually transfer the files over.
Damn.
And we were living together at the time, man. And we tracked over a week. It was my first proper studio experience. I was like 18 or 19 at the time. And, a bit of outlay and blah blah blah, and just the stress that comes with that. Because I was doing the drums
Yep.
before everything else was being built, and we
Yep.
were living together at the time, and I was feeding my son, my newborn, at home, and he comes home and he's like, "Oh, Stan, can I talk to you outside, man?" And I'm like, "Yeah, bro, sweet as." And so I gave the food to our other flatmate, Phil. So I said, "Oh, can you feed Ashton?" And I went outside, and I'm like, because Mike would never, like, that's a very serious tone for Mike, you know?
Yep.
And we
Yep.
went outside, and I'm like, "Bro, what's up?" And he's just like, "Look, man, I don't really know how else to say this, but I deleted your drums." And I was like, "Bro, it was so big that I couldn't even react." I was like, "Okay." Like, it was too big. Like, I
Man,
couldn't even physically react to it because it was so
wow.
out of control big. Like, I just couldn't even
Yeah.
believe that we were having that conversation. So I didn't react. I just said, "All right, I suppose we'll just try and do it again when we can." And that was it. And then we didn't get into it again for like another 6 months,
Oh, wow.
just because of timing and the studio being
Okay.
booked out. Like, because it was an active studio, and just all the elements. It took about 6 months to sort of get back in there, recording live with all of us. And
Yep.
but we got it done in like 3 days after that. It was when we finally got back in there. And like I say, blessing in disguise.
Crazy.
It was crazy. It was. We still talk about it to this day, bro. Like, whenever someone's transferring a folder.
God. I think everyone's got a story like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All right, there's one more topic that I want to get into with you, because I know that this is a point of interest for you. But just health and
Yep.
well-being, man. Like, your role in the band is very physically demanding, but I'd say that it's
Yep.
all, and I've said this before, it's also quite mentally demanding too. Whether you're prepping for the tour, whether
Yep.
you're on tour and sustaining throughout the tour, and one thing that I'm big on, and you've probably noticed on my socials if you've seen any of it, is that I'm a firm believer in health and well-being being almost the first thing that we sort of prioritize, because then the
Sure.
drumming becomes so much easier. And I know
Yep.
that you're this way inclined, and health is a subjective thing. Like, sorry, health means something different to everyone. So we don't even need to get into specifically, like what your nutritional macro breakdown is or anything like that. But I do want to know, like, the importance of your health and well-being and how you sort of maintain and sustain it.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, your health and well-being impacts everything. So your drumming, the way you think, whether you're inclined to have a positive or negative reaction to something, all the rest of it. So a big thing for me is just being consistent. It doesn't matter. Just consistent with good habits as well. That's the thing. Yourself, like, results are derived from consistent long-term daily work. It's like it's that's exactly how results are gained, and you need to be in a certain headspace to do that daily work that you need to get your results.
to get to get over the line, to just do the work right daily.
Yes, yeah, just and there's some days I don't even want to get in here, but I just open the door and walk in, and within 15 minutes I've forgotten about that thought that was wanting to stop me being here.
Yeah.
It's just getting in the door, picking up the sticks, and getting started. And that just comes from, it's like training your brain. Just when that thing yaps at you, says, "Oh, not today," or whatever, it's like, go away. That's not where results come from. Walk through wherever you practice pads or whatever it is. Just get on them and start.
It really is the consistent difference between a high performer and not, is being able to put your feelings aside. Feelings are great when they're
Yep.
needed for the right
Yep.
things.
Yep.
Kids, married, fucking building studios, great. Put some
Yep.
feelings in there. But when it comes to having them control you for the work,
Yeah.
not
Yep.
good.
Not good
No
at all.
bueno.
No. Get out, yeah. So whenever that voice is in my head, where it's like, especially at the moment, like I was on the kit at 1 o'clock in the morning last night,
Were
finishing up my,
you?
yeah. Got in here at 11:30, started, and I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it because I'd already done 3 hours on the kit. And
And
I was
that's
like,
why you have to do it, eh? Because you
yeah,
don't want to. And that's the level that you're trying to get past, so that that's the
yep,
norm for you.
yep. Got in here, started at 180, went all the way up to 215, and just I didn't do that well, but the work
But
has
you
been
did it.
I did it. So yeah, but you can't do that if your mindset is or health is not in a good way. So it's just really important to somehow maintain, your health and well-being.
So let's let me dig into that. Like, how do you look after yourself physically? So let's just talk about health. Like, what do you do to sort of nutritionally, or like, do you consider your nutrition?
Not as much as what I used to, but I do have good knowledge because I have delved into it quite a bit in the past.
I
Um,
asked that because I know that you have, so I was just
yep,
curious if you're but I
yep,
imagine that you just know what to do and to sustain the health
yeah.
side of things.
I've measured things before, macros and proteins and all these things, and I just listen to my body. The
Yeah,
older I get, the more I listen to it,
I'm
and
exactly the same, bro.
yeah, and just the one thing that always works for me is consistency. Doesn't matter
That's
what it
it.
is. Just turn up in your kitchen and do what you need to do. Turn up in your rehearsal room and do what you need to do. Get it done.
Yeah,
Because that's how all the people you idolize probably got to where they are. Just consistent hard work, and that's just how results work. It's like all these fat loss and all these fads. It's like it's calories in and calories out. Anything else is a lie.
yeah,
Just,
100%. Like, yeah, it's just
just,
energy in, energy out, bro.
energy in, energy out, and it's the same. That's
There will be people that will totally push back on just that sentence alone because
Yeah,
it's
that's because you
just
got a market that just
yeah.
derives around their
I
bullshit.
know. I marvel at that how there are people that are totally still marketing. But then the smartest people, like there's obviously nuance and like whatever, but you still can't beat thermodynamics. You just can't.
No, no, no. So yeah, I think I maintain my health by being consistent with what I do.
So do you exercise daily?
I wouldn't say I would say my drums at the moment is my exercise. Like I'm shredding, 12, 1,300 calories a day on drums. It's
Wow.
massive. It's huge.
Yeah.
My heart rate is between 95 and 135 like the whole time.
Holy shit.
It's just ripping
It's crazy.
calories.
You're so relaxed when you play as well. It's quite fascinating, eh? Like you're so centered, man. I know you're big on posture and I've heard you talk about that and all your angles are just so dialed in.
Yep. Yeah, we've got to be as efficient as possible. Especially in this band, like in my other band, Black Lava, I can really just beat the living crap out of the drums, and I don't have to worry too much. But with the style that Neo demands, I have to pace myself for 2 hours.
Right.
You-
So you're actually regulating your output, your
Yeah,
energy
I
output
absolutely have to. If I come out swinging, I'm going to feel it, and I'm going to struggle, and then the mental fight starts. I just
Has
don't
that
want.
happened before, like in a like quite a
Yep,
serious way?
yep, yeah, for sure. Because one thing I like to do when I'm playing live is if I want to keep the intensity the same. So if I'm feeling a bit flat, I'll try and put on a show, but I might not be hitting like how I'd normally hit, but I'd keep it consistent the whole night. But
Yeah.
if I come out swinging, I've got to keep it the whole set. That's one thing I like to do. So if I have just about burnt myself out a couple of times. The crazy cramps you get
Bro.
oh, dude.
Yeah.
And then you're holding onto the stick with these two
I
fingers.
know, bro. The thumbs bailed from the conversation. I know, man. That happened back when I was younger. It used to happen a lot more, probably just because of lack of maintenance. But man, happening mid show, your thumb just leaves the party.
Oh,
And
it's
this is
so
before I used my middle finger fulcrum as a tool.
yeah,
So
right.
I was still always a first finger. Like this is back in the
Okay.
day, but my
Yep.
God, like and then just like club handed, just trying to
Yeah. Yep.
so funny, eh?
Yeah, it's just yeah. So I try and maintain the same energy the whole set. So this 2 hour set, I'm finding my biggest challenge is the mental side of it because I have very little time to let my mind wander, and it's actually really hard to maintain focus for 2 hours without stopping. So I'm
Right.
actually picking points. I actually write on my snare head which parts of which songs I can think about my bills and my friends and what I want to eat later.
You've given yourself outs for certain parts of
Yeah,
songs
because
because you know that you
they're so dialed in. I don't need to think about it, and I'm not, using all my brain power about, trying to get my note spacing and all that stuff. I can just chill. Where's my next holiday? What's for dinner? You know,
that
and
is
I
so
need to
cool,
do that.
bro.
I have to do that. Otherwise, it's I'm exhausted mentally.
Those are the details that I love to hear about, man. That's fascinating. You've written down and told yourself the songs that you can mentally bail on so that you're present on the other ones when you need
Yeah,
to be.
well, the sections inside those tracks. So when I get to those parts, I just start thinking about stuff. Let the mind go. because it's like my rest.
Yes, yeah, your mental
And then,
rest.
when I have to focus on a section I have to focus on, it's much easier. I'm not so mentally exhausted.
Have you had any massive psychological issues like that live that have like fully like fallen apart, or have you
I
sort of
have when I've had technical errors happen.
from
I had,
gear or
yeah, well, to give you an example, one time I was playing at the Worcester Palladium, big venue in the States, and massive, huge show, a couple of thousand people, and I think we were middle or second last or something like that. And the drum tech from the headliner thought it'd be a good idea to sneak on stage near my rider and start setting up the headline riser, just whatever he was doing on there. And he fell over one of my cables, which my in-ear monitors was hooked into, ripped one of them out. I'm leaning on the side playing like this, dude, freaking out, not knowing what happened. And I look over and see him, and he just bails,
oh my god.
dude. And I'm like playing double bass, like 220 BPM, whatever it is, trying to like show must go on, like freaking out. And I had a meltdown. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. It felt like my whole world had just been vacuumed
Whoa.
up. Yeah,
Whoa.
it was. It just rattled me for the rest of the set, and I just couldn't play, how I wanted to play.
But did you still play? Did you still get through it?
Yeah, I got through. I actually didn't stop. Didn't
Far
stop.
out.
Yeah, yeah, and still didn't get an apology from that guy either.
Oh
He just
man.
avoided me for the rest of the tour.
I'm sure he did.
Dude,
Yeah,
yeah,
you've got so much more on the line in your genre, man, which is really what I find so fascinating about it, physically and mentally. And I do think that there needs to be like a predisposition wiring to be that sort of person in the first place. First of all, a love for the genre, obviously. Secondly, a love for the physical demand, because what you require, what's required from you to set up and maintain is just so different to myself. Yet we love our drums and our styles and our genres just the
yeah.
same.
But it's the process, bro. We both know that it's the
Yeah, yeah,
process.
yeah. It's always the process. I mean, like the thing is too, and it's not to discount what I do either, because I mean, shit, I still practice 2 to 3 hours every single day, bro.
Yep,
But it's
yep,
within the stuff that I find interesting that most people would never even notice anyway. It's just
yeah,
it's the details, like you said, it's the nuance and the for me, it's actually more. I'm so interested in dynamics these days and the subtleties, and that's the stuff that I've been exploring. And I can still see this like cavernous, rabbit hole of like
yep,
information that I need to attain in the
yep.
short period of time that I have on this planet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm huge on dynamics these days, and I actually really enjoy looking at stuff I do now when I record, and looking back years ago. Like my double strokes are so much softer now,
Oh, interesting.
and my ghost notes are so much softer now.
That's just more control, eh?
Yeah, and just understanding the dynamic range. I used to think the dynamic range was here. It's you know
Way
it's
bigger, eh?
it's way bigger.
Yeah, I teach that to my students. It's like if you want to turn on elements of your playing really super quick, it's a long process, but two things that you can do is focus on your left side, not even as left hand lead, but just purely focusing on being
Yeah,
able to like do everything you can do with your right hand with your left hand, not to then go be Simon Phillips, but just to have that as a strength.
yeah,
And then dynamics, bro. Like the deeper you go into dynamics, it's like you're playing like 3-4 times, folds into this whole new thing.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and I
I love
think that just comes with time and maturity and maybe just age and experience that those sort of things become more of a priority.
Yeah, I think they do. Unless you're naturally gifted, and in that case,
Yeah.
screw you.
Yes, screw those guys. So
Yeah.
then, where are you at now, man, with your personal drumming goals? Like, because you are such an accomplished drummer, like I don't really know what more you could do within your genre. I'm sure you do, but like, where are you at? What excites you to sit down and work on your playing? Like, what elements of your playing are you trying to develop still?
So I've been getting into samba grooves.
Oh, cool,
Yeah, the last few months. I warm up every day with samba grooves.
wicked. What brought
Yeah,
that on?
yeah. Sorry?
What brought that on?
Isaac Jumba on Instagram.
Oh, bro, he's great.
That what's brought it on, bro.
Yeah, fair
That
enough.
guy
Yeah,
is his flow,
yeah.
his oh, dude,
Technique, musicality, everything.
that
He's
guy,
very. Oh, he's got an authenticity about everything he does. Eh?
love it. So that's what brought it on.
That's awesome, man, because especially like I find my favorite drummers are guys that have crossed genres. So
Yep,
they've either come from a different genre and are playing in something else, but they've brought in all this other stuff that guys in that genre wouldn't have, or they've taken something from a different genre and brought it into their current style. And that's
yep,
where the magic is, man. It's like the cross pollination.
yeah. I agree. It happens a lot these days too. I think
Mm.
like
Oh, because of the internet.
yeah. Well, I think look at 20-year-old kids these days, and I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Bro, can you imagine with our sort of OCD, can you imagine having the internet at its current form, YouTube at its current form at 15 years old, and you're just starting your journey as a player?
Yeah,
Bro, I had a V8. I had one VHS. It was a Tama promotional VHS, and it had 10 minutes of John Tempesta, 10 minutes of Kenny Arnoff, and
yeah,
10 minutes of Mike Portnoy,
yeah. Right.
and that was my Bible.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Good
And I
Bible.
wore it. Yeah, it was a great Bible. It had like some live footage of all of them and then breaking down grooves. And it was just what you would have got if you bought like a Tama Swing Star or whatever.
Yep.
And that was my visual thing that I knew that I could keep going back to. You know, everything else was drum magazines and just listening to albums. And so just to think of the world that they have now, you know?
And the education side of it is huge.
Yeah. So what do you want to dig into still, man?
I just want to keep making killer music that I like,
Yeah.
and taking it as far as I can go. That's my motivator. I just want to take what I do as far as it can go, and I want to make art that I just enjoy. And I think hopefully that'll never end because it's such a fulfilling process.
Mm. Especially now that you've got such a more of an inside scoop to it all as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So speed or anything. I haven't had interest in that stuff for years. It's just everything's just art for me.
Yeah. Well, man, it's a testament to the way you play too, because like I keep saying, like you're very compositional, and it's from what I've seen, it stands out quite a lot within that genre. It's the things that stand out to me are just your accuracy, your feel, and your compositions, the compositional side of your playing. That 10-minute video, which maybe hopefully are you going to release that? I saw it was unlisted. Are
Yes,
you going
yeah,
to?
I will release it probably a month or two.
Cool, man. I'll make sure that I share it as well. But I think it's a real good overall view of what you do, man.
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah,
covers a lot.
yeah. It does. Well, I mean, that track I was having trouble with. That's why I came to you those years ago to get some, just to get a bit of a lift, or a couple of ideas, and that's when you gave me that concept, the right, right, left, kick,
Yeah,
and then
yeah. Oh, yeah. The 7.
one,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was, and then I introduced that came out in one of the fills during the
I
opening
saw
section of
that.
the track. Yeah, and I thought
Yeah.
that's why I said like you will know the sticking when you hear it. So
Yeah. And that's cool because I mean that's just a concept too. Like even just that alone, you can even turn into 5 or 6 different things, and then you can go left hand lead with it as well, which is what
dude,
I like. All those things that I remember going over with you. I mean, that's sort of part of my curriculum, but I make sure that I can do the more left hand lead. I make sure that I can switch out the single for a double kick. I make
yeah,
sure I can switch out the double on the hand for a single, and
yes,
like that's so many options, eh?
it's endless. Yeah,
Mm,
and that
it
also
really
got my
is.
single foot doubles a
Bro,
lot
your
better.
singles are great. I noticed that because I was watching the video. Sorry, I was listening to the video and then watching it, listening as I was doing what I was doing. And I thought that you were doing slow 16s. And then I looked and you were doing you were doing single kick.
Oh yeah, yep.
Like, and I would say that that's not very common. Most guys do go to both legs for the 16s, but you're staying on the 1 foot, which
I
is
did,
pretty
but
cool, man.
that's because I was opening and closing the hi hat with my left foot.
Oh, true. Okay. But the fact that you have access to that, I don't know if every guy does in that genre.
Don't know. Something
You had great control over it.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's. I thought it was quite musical. That's why I worked on it. And I'm like, this could be musical. Let's try and work this out. So yeah,
Awesome, man. Well, bro, I reckon we should wrap it up there. Probably the one last thing that I'd like to touch on, just because it's an extension of the health thing, is just to touch on the well-being part of it. Do you do things to keep yourself in a great frame of mind for all the load that you put yourself under?
yeah. Just I think. Well, for me, it's surrounding myself with like-minded, amazing people is what
Yeah,
does a lot. Wife, friends. That's the big part of it for me.
yeah, and staying away from all the noise and all the rubbish.
Pay zero attention. Yep,
I'm the
0.
same, bro. I'm
Yeah.
exactly the
Could
same.
care
I don't
less.
watch. I know, because do you know what, bro? If the world's going to end, they'll let you know.
That's
We
true.
don't need to stay online to find out about it, you know?
Definitely not. No.
Yeah. Awesome, bro. Well, hey man, it's been really nice to chat with you, Dan. I think that it's like you are a diamond in the rough. Like you've always stood out to me in terms of your style, but actually it's your drive and the way that you go about what you do that I'm super fascinated by. And then it's kind of just it's gone through your playing, and then it's gone into your I would say it's gone into your train driving as well, because I know the line you have to cross over to get into there. And then it has gone into your studio setup, and then rolling that out, and then getting back into Neo as well, and getting back on the touring buzz. And there's definitely like a constant thread through there of sort of physical and mental demands, and it's a testament to you, bro.
Yeah, well, thanks. I think the same of you as well. Very obviously, we're quite like-minded in a lot of stuff, and I very much look for you for inspiration, for things now and then, which is cool. So yeah,
Thanks, bro.
props.
I appreciate that. Awesome, man. Well, we'll keep in touch, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks,
Cheers,
brother.
bro.
Cheers.